Get ready to be inspired by two incredible athletes who have worked incredibly hard to become some of the top double scull rowers in the country. Meet Robert Brown and Justin Wickstrand, two dedicated rowers who proudly represented Oregon rowing at the American Collegiate Rowing Association National Championship Regatta. Their amazing results and impressive athletic abilities have landed them a spot in the Grande Final, cementing their place as the top 5 double scull rowers in the entire country at the collegiate level. These athletes exemplify what it means to work hard, push themselves to their limits, and achieve greatness. I can't honestly wait to hear them share their story and their pride in being part of Oregon rowing. So get ready to be inspired by their positive energy, enthusiasm, and unwavering dedication to this sport. Welcome, Justin and Robbie. How are you, my friends?
We're doing good, Philippe. How about you?
I'm doing excellent. I'm so happy that we find time to make this happen.
Yeah, this is awesome. No, this is such a cool setup. And yeah, I always love to talk rowing, talk health and wellness and fitness and all that fun stuff.
Perfect. Let's dive right into it. I want to ask you, what inspired you to pursue rowing, and how did you get started in the sport?
I guess I can start us off. So for me, I've been an athlete my whole life. When I was in high school, I did cross country, track and field. And in track and field, I did long distance, and I also threw discus. So it was kind of an interesting combo for me, like being a thrower and a runner. Like I had a pretty good cardio base, but I also did a lot of strength training, so I was putting on size. Yeah, it was like totally like full body workout for me, like pretty much all of track and field. And then when I came to Oregon, I think rowing was one of the only club sports that was still operating at that time, just with COVID and all that going on. So I wanted to check it out, and honestly, it's been one of the best decisions I've made in college.
Wow, sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, Robbie was in the team on the team in our darkest days during those COVID times because we weren't doing a lot of like erging and stuff because we like physically could not be in mat court. So it was basically a running club at that point, and yeah, we would just meet up down by the rec fields at normal practice time still, and just like go on runs for our cardio instead of erging. And that was tough because like for me, you know, I had done I had a previous year of you know, a legit training season up until like March when we got sent home and stuff. And then yeah, transitioning into that was rough. And yeah, that Robbie stuck through is definitely a testament to his character. But back to your question, like Robbie, I was also an athlete for pretty much my whole life, and my sport was water polo. And so yeah, I did that for on both the scholastic and a club level. I did that for 7 years, all the way up until you know, finishing high school. And I had thought about taking, you know, doing water polo at the collegiate level. But after a certain point, you know, I had done a couple camps at some colleges on the East Coast, and I was just feeling like a little burnt out. And obviously been an aquatic athlete my whole life, so I couldn't really imagine myself as a land athlete. And I'd always like known of crew, you know, you see it on the Olympics or like in movies. I remember The Social Network was like my big introduction. You seen that movie?
On Netflix?
Yeah, I think it's on Netflix, but it's about the founding of Facebook.
Oh yes,
Yeah, that's a good movie. And you know, the brothers, the Winklevoss brothers in that movie, they're rowers, and they actually made it to the Olympics in real life.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, so I knew about it, and once I decided I wasn't going to do water polo, that was like, okay, I'm doing crew. And then when I came up for my my introduction, I just sought them out. They were at there was like a club fair, so I was like, oh, where's the rowing table? Sought them out, then met the coach, and yeah, pretty much just never looked back after that.
Made a good choice, that's for sure.
Totally. So you were talking about how your training regimen evolved during the pandemic, and I'm curious, how was this change after pandemic, because you used to go a lot of on runs during the pandemic because of the COVID, and then switching to water, switching to more intense activities. How was this change, especially for you, Rob, because you encountered this?
Yeah, so for me, like Justin was saying, those were kind of the dark days of Oregon rowing, especially in COVID. So it was a lot of running, like during my first couple terms at U of O. We did a lot of like calisthenics stuff. So if you know like the bike racks outside of the rec, we were doing a lot of like Australian pull-ups, a lot of push-ups, a lot of core workout, just doing what we could with our strength and strength training. But eventually we were able to kind of transition back into MAC, but the mask regulations were still pretty strict. So, when we were on the ergs, it was like 6 feet.
Masked up.
Yeah, masked up.
On the ergs.
Yeah. Each erg, I think, had to be like 6 feet apart.
Oh, yeah. So
it was kind of tough to like, stay in time with guys. Cause like when we're on the ergs, you're always trying to like match the people around you, match the cadence, match the stroke rate. It was kind of tough. And, for me, with my first time getting on the water, I was in an 8-person shell with only 4 people. So there was an empty seat between each rower in the boat. So basically we had to like completely re-rig the boats and get it all set up. It was kind of weird, but fortunately my sophomore year, things kind of loosened up a little bit. We were able to get back in like more realistic, like full person boats. Raced at the Pac-12 my freshman year actually and sophomore year. We still got good experiences about it. Obviously now we're back to normal, back to what we're doing, going to ACRAs, all that fun stuff. So the training's kind of fluctuated since I've been on the team, but hopefully now, assuming we don't have any other crazy pandemic issues, we can keep locked in with what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, different story for Rob, like coming into it with COVID. I mean, that's its own beast to, be able to stick with the team through that and like not getting to see any payoff on what you're doing, because like when my freshman year, like when I first started rowing, obviously no pandemic and stuff, so we would do our normal land practices, but then in fall, for the novices at least, we would back then it was Sunday weekend practices, not Saturday, so every Sunday we get to go out and be on the water for a couple hours, and then you get to see some of that payoff and some of that applying what you're doing on land onto the water, and then like when we were gearing up that spring, I think we were in pretty good shape. I think we could have had a really competitive boat with my novice class, and then then we got shut down and all that, and so that was a huge blow. But I mean, sticking through it with the pandemic was huge for everyone. We got to get some new guys and retain a few of them, and huge challenges. But we all got through it on the other side, and like we were definitely better for it because we were able to do that.
Totally, challenges make us stronger.
Yeah,
it's easy to row when we are on the water. It's sunny and everything is okay. Because when I look back at my experience, I noticed that a lot of people quit in the first months,
Yeah.
And I was wondering why. They didn't like this monotony,
Yeah.
This boredom, like going on the ergs, not going on the water so much.
Yeah.
But this is what makes you a champion. This is what, strengthens you. All these hours that you put in the repetitive actions, that are not so fun.
No.
But in the end, they build you.
Yeah. No. The reason I was laughing is because, it's super easy to be excited to go row when it's, when the sun is out by the time you get on the water and it's not freezing cold. But when you're doing it, when you get out onto the water and the sun is still nowhere to be seen and it's still pitch black and it's freezing, that's when you get tested. That's when you get really tested.
Yeah. Get tested and hopefully become stronger.
Yeah, exactly. Stronger for it.
Tell me, what role does mental toughness play in your success, and how do you cultivate that mindset of resilience and perseverance? Because rowing, it's an aggressive, it's a sport that is leaving its marks on your hands, on your body, on your mind also, because you become tired. And I'm wondering how do you manage this? What strategies? What's your approach on this?
I think It all starts with, like you said, it's a pretty demanding sport. It is pretty brutal. You're going to beat up your body. It's going to hurt. It's honestly what you do outside of practice, I think, that's most important. Whether it's making sure you're drinking a ton of water, eating a lot of healthy, good food, clean food. That's really what's going to allow your body to recover and take that damage. Because it is damage. I mean, we're out practicing 6 days a week for hours on end, and you're going to get stronger, but you also have to take care of yourself outside of practice. I would say for when we're at practice, in terms of just fighting the urge to, or no, it's not fighting the urge, but just like with how difficult the training is, and just kind of how mind numbing it can be at times. I think honestly for me, what it comes down to is the guys who are around me, the guys who are with me. Because I know they're not going to quit, and because of that, I'm not going to quit. Because rowing is what I consider to be the ultimate team sport, and I think for me, what it comes down to is looking at my teammates in my darkest moments of the sport and realizing that they're not going to quit. So why the hell would I quit?
Yeah, I mean, mental toughness is everything in our sport, and I think part of what helps you build it is the repetition, like what you said, the monotony of it, and just drilling something over and over and over, and especially when you apply that to the water, because like Robbie said, it's the ultimate team sport where everything you do down to the millimeter will affect yourself and your teammates. I mean, that's what makes it so special, I think. And at least for me, the mental toughness, I think I've definitely come a long way since I started as a novice. Like with my water polo experience, definitely had that instilled in me. And my coach, I still think of my coach, a lot in terms of what he taught me about discipline and applying yourself, and not just doing the hard thing and like going the extra mile, like when you're being watched, or when coach is watching you, but doing it, having that internal force, that internal drive, and doing that definitely builds the calluses around your mind, as David Goggins likes to say. So yeah, I mean, in those dark winter days and those that winter term training, that's when your character gets pushed, and that toughness shines through.
You will be tested in the sport, and like Justin said, it's that winter training where, I mean, I guess like you were saying, Philippe, there's a lot of guys who quit pretty early on, and I mean, it's honestly a privilege being our team and to make it through any season. Yeah. So I mean, I've been very proud of what we've been able to accomplish as a team, and I really think we have a strong group of guys.
Totally. Mm-hmm. Yes. Thinking about this, I'm surprised because it's exactly as you both of you told me. Like, you have to be focused,
mm-hmm.
on the monotonous task, mm-hmm. and persevere, because also Zach told us medals are won in winter,
yep.
and collected in spring.
There we go.
That's right.
So it's surprisingly, because we think, okay, only the race matters. This is the tendency. Only the big day matters. But no.
Yeah.
It's every single thing matters.
Yep.
So how do you, both of you right now, I mean, you graduated. You're almost there to graduate. Almost there. But you were students and athletes. Uh-huh. So this is a challenge, because I hear a lot of people say, I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to go to the gym,
Yeah.
But both of you not only had time, but also perform at a high level, both in terms of athletics and in terms of academia. So how do you do to manage your time?
I mean, I think, the rowing and the practices that we have helps a lot, like in terms of structure. It's easy, especially now that we're out of season, and it's like, oh wait, I don't have to get up, it's okay. I can sleep in. I don't need to get up and either go work out or go study or go write or, do homework, stuff like that. So I totally see where, how people who don't have that structure sort of built into their lives, how that can sort of slip away. And I understand it. I do. But yeah, having the structure that we have with our practices, I think was huge, just for being able to, have a routine that you have, and you dial it in and you do it every single day. And then it's like, okay, I've got practice from 6 to 8, get home, eat breakfast, shower, either go to class or go to the library, and you do it, and you do it over and over, and that's how you build success is that repetition. So that structure has been huge for me as a student.
I will also say that when you get, at least for me, when I get done with one of our tough workouts in the morning, the rest of the day honestly feels like easy mode.
So easy.
It's easy mode.
It's so easy.
It's like I'll show up to a 10 a.m. class. I've already been awake for about 5 hours, and the guy next to me is complaining about the teacher, just finding different things to complain about. And it's like all of that like small stuff that you hear people complain about, whether it's like Starbucks not being open, or I didn't get my caffeine, or any of that crazy stuff. It's like you grow resilient just through the work that you do earlier in the day. Like when you're able to like fry yourself on the erg or like on the water, and like really feel like you pushed yourself like that hard that early in the morning when everyone else is still asleep. I think that's a testament that you carry on throughout the rest of the day, and I think it carries over to academics, like that same kind of mindset. So I know that you were asking mostly about like time management, but honestly, I feel like the mindset that I've personally kind of like been able to exhibit through rowing, and kind of like the mental toughness that I've kind of developed, I think is honestly translated to my discipline within like academics and other extracurriculars. So
yeah, when you do, when it's when it's like 6:15 and you're doing 4x2K on the erg, it's all downhill after that, and it really does, like Robbie said, puts it into perspective. Like, oh, I just did that. I just did the hardest thing I'm gonna do all day. Everything else is a cakewalk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. Speaking about the race day or the erg test day, do you have a favorite pre-race ritual, something that you do to get into that state?
I think it's, I think there's the same type of mindset that goes behind an erg, an all-out like erg 2K versus like a 2K in the boat. I would say for me it's a little bit different. So like if I'm getting ready to do like a full-on like 2K erg, like full rate, full press, usually like I'll do a few laps around MacArthur Court, like just get my blood flowing. Obviously a lot of stretching. But honestly, like the biggest way I prepare for the erg, like the 2K race, is not what I do on race day. It's what I do a few days beforehand.
Bingo.
So making sure you're getting a ton of water, eating clean, healthy food, kind of like what I already said, but just making sure you're getting enough of it and getting more of it, because a 2K is honestly one of the most taxing things you can do to the human body and like still be okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, what it comes down to is like how you prep beforehand. On race day, you can do laps around Mac, stretch, get your blood flowing. But if you didn't prepare, like you didn't eat well, you didn't drink enough food, or not drink enough food, drink enough water, it's gonna be tough, and you're not gonna perform your best. So it's what you do before that counts.
Yeah, and that preparation going into it is what will give you the confidence to succeed. Because if you're at the starting line or you're at the catch before you start your 2K, and you're thinking to yourself, oh God, I didn't push my hardest on that one workout, or oh God, I had one glass of water yesterday. I'm not hydrated enough. Then you're screwed. It's all about what you do leading up to it, and having your routine drilled in, and just practicing like you're gonna do it on race day.
I realize I kind of missed your second part of the question. What you do, when you're on the water, it is a little bit different. Obviously, you can't do a ton of laps when you have like a warm up for 30 minutes on the water. But I think honestly what that comes down to mostly is just like the mental focus and just mentally locking in. So one thing like I've mentioned to you before, Philippe, one thing I really like to do is visualize. So like visualizing yourself on the starting line, visualizing the start, the first couple strokes. I think it honestly makes it a lot easier, and it makes it a lot easier to relax. Because in rowing, when you get tense, that's when your form starts to go. You're not going to get full press to the water. And I think really it just comes down to relaxing and trusting the work that you've already put in.
Yeah, exactly. For me, there's a huge difference in how I'm feeling, like nervousness wise, before a real race on the water as opposed to a land 2K, I get real nervous before races on the water, and so for me, my main thing is just focusing on my breath and visualizing as much as possible. And I mean, once Rob and I are out in the shell on the water warming up, then it's totally fine. But that wait and that anticipation before, oh man, I get just butterflies thinking about it. And so yeah, being able to, in those moments where I'm super nervous, being able to say, oh, we've done everything we can to prepare. There's nothing else I can do. Now's just the fun part. Now's where the excitement gets to build and you get ready to just jump off the line. That's the preparation that counts for me.
That's fantastic. And everything comes back to what you do before.
Yeah.
I still remember we were running in McCord, and I had the tendency to do the mistake to cut the corner, imagine the corner and you are in the back. Don't cut corners. So, because every single step matters. Every single, kilometers, mile, every single meter matter. So this was for me like a big piece of advice from you that I took, focused. Every single exercise that we do, every run, every exercise, every stretch, matters.
Yes.
Don't cut corners, don't hide, don't, slow down, because everything matters. And speaking about you, because now I'm thinking about the advice that I got from you regarding races, regarding mindset. And I asked you, Robbie, how did you do to be on the top of your game every single earth test? And you told me, I think it's about, Philip, you know the answer. It's about trusting the process. Showing up, like you do already, and trusting that you are going to get there. It takes practice, it takes time, and show up every single day, give your best, and you're going to get there. Because we sometimes expect results instantaneously, we want them fast, but we need time. We need things to grow, like a baby, like a plant, like a tree.
Yeah,
it needs time.
Yep,
perfect. So, tell me, what's your favorite race that you have completed so far? One that really struck to you, really stays in your mind and it's in your heart also. When you think about your rowing careers, your rowing experience, that race is my favorite.
I think we'll probably have the same answer, but
I think so too.
Grand Finals at ACRA a couple weeks ago. To me, that was just the culmination of every little bit of adversity, the ups, the downs, everything in between, and we were on sort of an upward trajectory with our first two races with time trials and then semis, and we just really clicked in that last race, and I think I can say confidently that out of all my 4 years of racing, that was just the best feeling row that I've ever had. And we just felt, so connected together, just moving as one, and it was pretty freaking awesome. It was great.
Yeah, well, Justin's correct. That was the race I was going to say too. Just to echo everything Justin said, I think that was our best rowing by far. Just the feeling that we were getting on the water. I know for a fact that was my favorite and best performing race I've ever had as a rower. One thing that I kind of realized, when especially during our warm up, is I was like, I can be really tense and I can be really nervous and I can have all these emotions and have all this excitement. But what I kind of realized was, if you are tense and you are, having these doubts of yourself, you're not going to perform. And so at the start line, I was like, you know what? I'm just really going to relax. I'm going to trust my strokes. I'm going to trust the start. I'm just going to do what I've been training to do, for the past 3 years, basically. And that's ultimately what it came down to, is just trusting Justin and trusting myself. And we did really well, and I was really, really happy with it.
Yeah, I think that for us, the start was usually our weakest point. Once we got up to full slide and we did our highs and our shifts down to our base, that we were pretty strong at that, but it was really the start that we hadn't really nailed down up to that point. And I mean, both of us, we sort of have a tendency, we're antsy at the line, wiggling our toes and stuff. And it's really hard to be patient on those first two strokes, especially, half, three quarters, stuff like that. Quick timing, quick ratio. And just, for whatever reason, our ability to just be at the loosest we had been all season just really clicked in that moment for us. We had a really solid start, and we had our best race of the season.
I'm glad.
Carries through.
Totally.
Yeah.
Congratulations. What advice would you give to someone who is thinking of starting rowing? And the second part of the question, like, what qualities do you think are essential to succeed, to have a lot of achievements in this sport?
I think from a physical standpoint, like if you are a person who would want to walk onto our team, I think honestly the best thing you can do is just start working out over summer. If you have a rowing machine, that's great. You can look online. There's a ton of resources for like good workouts you can do. If you don't, going for runs, going for bike rides, strength training, just like going to the gym, just doing something, just getting moving. Ultimately, I think that's going to prepare you. I think it can prepare you physically if you do it correctly and just like dedicate yourself to it. Like I said, there's a lot of resources online you can look at. I think from a mental perspective, that I think is the tougher part of our team. There's a lot of guys who have tried our team, who have been strong, who have been fast, and have not been able to make it. And I think a lot of that, what comes down to is kind of like what we were saying, is like the monotony of like rowing and like every stroke, trying to master like just one movement over and over again. And I think, it's as a new rower in fall, it's pretty easy to look at rowing when we're on the ergs and be like, oh, this isn't what I thought. We're just actually doing the same thing over and over again. And I think that can draw a lot of people away. But, I think it's a choice. It's a choice if you want to be there. It's a choice if you want to compete. It's a choice if you want to be successful. There's other guys there who are going to do it. And it's up to you if you want to stay and you want to compete. And, it just depends on at least for me, it's like looking at what the other guys are doing around me and really just staying focused with that mindset. So,
yeah. On the mental side of things, one of my favorite sayings that Coach Zach has is that there's a difference between saying I row and I'm a rower. I am a rower. And to me, like what that means is that the embodiment of the ethos of I am a rower it's the ability to persevere, obviously through the hard workouts and the daily grind, but more than that, I think it's the ability to find it within yourself to have your own agency and take ownership over every action you do, whether it be on the erg, on the water, with your teammates, in class, outside of all that stuff. To me, that's what being a rower is about. Being a rower, not rowing to be a rower. And that this concept of like agency, I think that's something that rowing has taught me to apply, in every aspect of my life. And, not just accepting and like rolling over if something is hard or like if I don't want to do something, but realizing that, I have to be internally motivated and not just motivated, but disciplined, in order to, achieve the things that I want to achieve to accomplish my goals.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Agency, also integrity.
Yep.
Because this is one of the values of our team. Mm-hmm. Integrity, like what you show here during the workout, you need to show also in your day-to-day life. It doesn't connect. Yeah, like you are here rowing and then you go party and you have a crazy life and then you expect to perform well. And then, work. And exactly. And then it's work ethic, having that, like you said, discipline, not just motivation.
Yeah.
Because a lot of motivation fades. Mm-hmm. We all agree here.
Yeah.
By having that discipline, that focus, that's what is going to propulse you into the top. So now we have another value in our team, family. So now think about your relationship, the relationship between you two. I want to ask you, how do you maintain a strong sense of teamwork and camaraderie with your rowing partner, both on and off the water? What do you do?
I think it all starts with trust. And, you know, like Robbie and I think we had always, before we had, you know, been in a boat, just the two of us together, I think we had always known that we shared a lot of the same, a lot of the same sort of mindset, and that we were similar in those ways. But I really don't think it was until what we, you know, went through over winter with the rest of the varsity guys leaving, that we really got brought together and really just started to trust each other, because we were all we had. And you know, that the trust thing to me, because rowing is such an intimate sport, is, you know, it's everything. If like while you're rowing and you're having a bad row and you can think to yourself, it's like, oh, you know, it's this guy in front of me. He's not doing his stuff. He's not applying himself. Like, his mind isn't in the boat. I mean, that's death at that point for your performance. But like, being able to never doubt, you know, that Rob was like giving everything that he can, really propelled me, one, to work harder, both for myself, and also just it gave me so much confidence to be able to, like, you know, be like vulnerable as a rower, like, you know, say like, man, I'm messing this up, and like, it helped me to take ownership over my faults. And so that's the on the water side. You know, off the water, like, you know, also being able to trust that I know he's getting his calories in. I know he's hydrated. I know he's stretching and stuff like that. That's another huge thing, because I know he's rip roaring to go when we get on the erg or on the water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess just to kind of echo again, like, you know, with me and Justin, I really feel like we had I always kind of looked at Justin like, I knew he worked hard, I knew he was disciplined, and I knew we were kind of similar. But it wasn't until we were put into a boat together that I really kind of realized that, like, you know, as we've kind of said, there's kind of a blood relationship. I think that that kind of unfolded. Yeah. And you know, like, I love this guy, and you know, to me, that's what the sport's all about. And, you know, like, kind of like we were talking about at the Grand Finals at ACRA, like, you know, to be able to do that with someone I trust implicitly, and, you know, just know that we gave it everything we had with the resources we had, and to be able to perform that well as any of our boats have performed in the past, I think 6 years it's been. I think that speaks a huge testament to our team and to our friendship. And yeah, that's honestly what rowing has meant. That's why the sport has meant so much to me. It's just those relationships and those connections with other guys.
Well, fantastic. And now, Coach Zach has this philosophy of doing a lot of workouts, eating, and he has this thing called mindfulness. I want to ask you if what role does mindfulness or spirituality plays in your practice, in your improvement, if any?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, mindfulness is huge. That's something that, especially over winter break, when we have our team competition, that's when I really hone in my mindfulness. And, you know, I don't always follow through with it once we get back to school and, like, everything gets a little hectic, but just like taking a beat, you know, once a day to say, like, just like take a deep breath and, you know, reflect for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes to say, like, okay, here's where I am, here's how I'm feeling, you know, what do I need to do? What have I done? How am I, like, just a little check-in with yourself. I think, like, practicing mindfulness in that sense goes a long way to just stepping outside of your daily routine and your daily grind. and it helps you to get perspective and not get bogged down in all the difficult stuff that we do.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite kind of, I guess, like mindfulness exercises is journaling. I've talked with you about this quite a bit, Philippe. But like one of my New Year's resolutions for 2023 is I was like, I'm going to do one journal entry every day. In order to kind of build that habit, I decided to make it easy at first. So all I had to do was just write one sentence. Because you're not always going to like want to like sit down and write like a paragraph about how your day went or anything like that. But for the times when I like did want to write and I did want to like, write down my thoughts and things like that, it was like I already had the habit in place. And it wasn't something I had to think about or like try to remember to do. It was like, okay, before I go to bed, write one sentence. And I think for me, like, it's kind of cool because now like my journal, I think I've filled out, about 120-ish pages. And it's weird like flipping through it and like reading like old thoughts I had or like old things I was thinking about and realizing like, oh, wow, like in such a short time, like only a few months, it's like my mindset is like changed and like my emotional state, just, random things like that. Like you can kind of like measure like how you're changing as a person through it. But yeah, I guess from more of like the mindfulness perspective, I think it does a lot for me because I think, a lot of people like I think have those kind of like subconscious thoughts. Maybe they can't really like put them to the forefront. But, when you have a pen in your hand and, you have a journal in front of you, it's pretty easy to just like sit down and be like, okay, what am I actually thinking? What am I actually feeling? Because no one else is going to read this. And so why not just be completely honest with yourself and have that like, inward kind of like introspection. But yeah, that's journaling. That's one thing that I like to do. I think for other mindfulness, I think honestly, it's really tied into the sport of rowing itself. Like the idea of being a physically fit person, the idea of like eating really healthy, taking care of your body. I think that does a lot for me, like from a mindfulness perspective as well. But yeah, I mean, the sport can get monotonous at times. And I think also just like staying focused on the goals ahead of you, like we've kind of said a few times, like for me at least, realizing like no one else is going to give up. I'm not going to give up. Like I want to stay focused. And I think that does a lot for me as well.
So you've done journaling for like 90% of the year so far?
Well, I started, I guess my first day was like January 1st.
Yeah.
So
so far. Yeah, you've probably missed only a couple. Like
I think I've missed like a few days, but for the most part, it's been pretty consistent. So.
That's epic.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, writing for me is so therapeutic. I've done the journal thing, am not consistent with it, but like when I do it, it feels good just to be able to like be totally honest and vulnerable like on the page. And for me, like I've always found writing to be a medium where I can like weirdly feel like most authentic with myself for whatever reason. I don't know. It just feels more I don't know, poignant to me than speaking. So yeah, honestly, I might have to take some inspo from Rob and start the journal. Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yes, I also love it, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I think you have also journaled specific for rowing, because I saw you after every practice on water, you jot down some thoughts about how did it go, right? That's a different one, or is the same?
No, that was a different one. So what me and Justin would do is we'd like take turns driving each other to the lake, just like save money on gas and whatnot. So whenever I was a passenger in Justin's car, I would always just write down like, okay, here's what the water conditions were. Here's what we did for practice. Here's what went well. Here's what I think I need to improve on. And just getting out like, just kind of like just having that in like the journal entry, just so that I can look back on it and remember like, okay, here's what this practice was like. Here's what I got from it. Here's what I needed to improve. And then I'd always take a picture of it and just like send it to Justin, just so he knew like I was getting the thoughts down, and like if he wanted to look through it, he could do that too. So
yeah, and that's when I started doing it too, and like that's huge, especially to do it like when it's still fresh in your mind, when that row is still fresh in your mind, just so you can like capture where your head was at for that practice, and what you were feeling, what went well, what went bad, like Rob said. That was a pretty powerful tool for us because like we said, it's all about the repetition. So when you can have a tangible memory of like how each specific practice went, and you can flip back on that and review it. One for like a technical side of things, but also just as a mindfulness thing to say like, oh wow, I was in a way different place in this practice than I was after this practice and after this practice, and to be able to like quantify and track that progress is a cool thing. And that was all Rob, so that was awesome.
I still remember the scrimmage we had in Vancouver, and did terribly, like the worst of the worst, and I got back of the water,
Yeah.
on the land, and you two came to me, and how did it go? How it was? What did you notice? And I started speaking to you. Okay, now jot them down. I don't have my phone with me, and Robbie handed me his phone right here,
Yes.
while it's fresh, right here, everything that you
it's
remember.
fresh.
Yes, and I wrote them down.
Yes.
And I also get into this habit of writing down. I think you noticed my wallpaper
Yeah.
on the
Yeah,
phone.
oh, yeah.
All the things that I need to improve, I put them like with dots,
I love that.
and set it as a wallpaper.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing you see in the morning is in your focus all the day, so you have an advantage. All of these little things matter, the journaling, the little wallpaper that you said, like reflecting, because drawing is not just a physical, it's also mental, so reflecting and being aware of your mistakes, of things you have to improve, I think makes the practice more productive.
Oh yeah. I like what you're doing with the screensaver thing. Like first thing you see, last thing you see is the stuff you need to work on. I've got sort of a similar thing in my room at the start of the year. I taped it was an old comic, like a comic strip that you would see in a newspaper. The comic itself was called Hagar the Horrible, and he's a Viking, and he gets into misadventures and stuff. And it's just 2 panels, and I found it at the start of the year, and I loved it, and it was amazing to me. And it was, first panel is, Hagar the Viking is in his boat gets like struck by lightning or something. Something bad happened something bad happens to him, and like he looks up at the sky, he looks up at God, and he says, "Why me?" And then just the next panel, just a little voice from the heavens says down, and it says, "Why not?" And so that, to me, like that's the first thing I see in the morning when I walk out the door for practice, and it's the last thing I see when I close my door when I go to bed. And that's always just a check-in to tell myself that everything that I do is an opportunity to better myself, to better my community, to better the ones that I love. And I think the idea of like the why not is what has been a big part of my life, and a big part of the things that we were able to do together.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic.
I was gonna say, that's funny. I've never heard you mention that comic. You'll have to send that to me. That's funny.
I've got like several copies of it.
You bought so many?
I'll give you both some.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will have to. Okay, I love that you mentioned doing something for your family, for the community. And mention also God and all of this, like having a higher purpose.
Yeah.
In the end. How this reflects into your practice, how this plays a role into your day-to-day activities, because you are more than athletes. I'm looking at you, and you are studying business, and you want to achieve a lot of things into the business. You are studying political science, and you don't want to settle, for less than you can be or do or create or give. How this perspective of having a mission, of being guided, reflects into your day-to-day routine activity.
I think for me, a lot of what I feel guides what I choose to do and what I do is I really like inspiring other people. And like when people look at me, I don't want them to look at me and be like, oh, wow, that guy's like really athletic, or oh, that guy's really smart. I want them to look at me and be like, wow, like I want to do that. Like I want to be like that guy. Like I want to be that guy. And so for me, that's kind of what I've always really found important for me is like, I want people to like be inspired by the things that I do. I want people to want to push themselves because of my efforts and because of like how I'm working, So like, for example, when we would have like morning practices at Mac. Like, you know, a lot of our guys would go to the gym and go on bikes and stuff like that just for extra cardio. For me, it was like, I'm always going to go for a run. It doesn't matter how cold it is. It doesn't matter if it's raining. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm going to take my shirt off. I'm going to go run. If it'll be 5 o'clock in the morning. And for the people who are out that are going to see me, they're going to be like, oh, this guy's out here at 5 o'clock in the morning in 30-degree weather running with no shirt on.
Hardest of the hard.
And they're going to be like, wow, like, why can't I do something like that? And so for me, it's like, I'm not trying to like, I don't want to like show off or like be like, oh, like, look at what I'm doing and you're not. It's like, I want people to look at me and be like, damn, like, I want to go do something like that. And so for me, that's part of why I choose to push myself. And, you know, the same thing can be said about like academics. Like, I really want to be successful, and I really want, you know, like, my classmates and just people who I'm in projects with to look at me and be like, wow, like, that guy works really hard. And so that's kind of ultimately what I feel like guides me, is I really want other people to be inspired and to want to pursue their own dreams.
Nice.
Yeah, I like that a lot. But for me, you know, I went to I was in Catholic education my whole life, like literally up until coming to college, and like, you know, I think not so much like the dogma of, you know, Catholicism or Christianity or whatever is sort of my higher purpose, but I went to a Jesuit high school, and something that I always found appealing was like this concept of service, of like devoting your whole self to others in whatever sense you feel like you need to at that time in your life. And there was a prayer that we would say every time we would meet together as a whole school, and we would have mass. It's called the Prayer of Generosity, and it basically, you know, some of the lines are, it's Lord, teach me to be generous, teach me to serve you as you deserve, to give and not to count the cost, to fight and not to heed the wounds, to toil and not to seek for rest, to labor and not to ask for reward. And like, just the idea of not doing good, or like, you know, doing service and expecting like recognition or accomplishment, but just doing it because you genuinely want to help others, help yourself, and like contribute to the well-being of others. I think that has been a really, really powerful, you know, concept in my life that I've carried with me, you know, now that I'm not in, you know, a religious educational system, or not even really a practicing Catholic anymore, but like just the having a purpose in a sense of being in service to others. That's always been sort of a driving force in my life. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And you can see it, you know, in both of you, because the advice that you give, you know, the care that you have for others, you know, it reflects this thing that you are here to serve, you know. I'm not just here to train. It's only my thing. If I notice something on you, Philip, and I think that you can improve, I say it, you know, and you both of you, to me and to others, you know, offer such good advice, you know, but in such a humble way, you know, that makes you take it. It makes you, you know, reflect on it. It's not like superiority advice. You should do that because I'm the boss. I have 4 years, you know?
Yeah. And we would expect the same thing if you see something that we can do better. You know, we are all on equal footing. And like, yeah, I've always viewed leadership as service, and like leading from the front, being the example to set. And yeah, that's exactly like what you were saying. That's powerful.
Good. That's good. It's good that we touched this topic of leadership, because I was wondering, like, what's your definition of leadership? You mentioned leadership is as a service.
Yeah.
What about you, Robbie?
I think for me, like, the most important thing with leadership, or at least the most effective way I've found, is to lead by example. I think, you know, it's one thing to tell others what to do. It's one thing to tell others what you expect them to do, but it's another thing to actually do what you expect others to do. Like, you know, whether it's like showing up to practice on time, giving it your all, like during workouts, you know, things you do outside of practice, like taking care of your body, all that stuff. I think that in order to be a leader, you have to practice what you preach. And for me personally, that I think is another thing that's kept me accountable and like kept me like wanting to work hard and kept me like wanting to stay fit. Is just that notion, because like I said, I want others to be inspired and I want others to want to work hard. And if I'm not setting that example, like personally, I can't possibly expect it from others.
Yep.
Totally. You mentioned pandemic, and I'm now just want to go back a little bit to the challenges that you experienced as rowers, as athletes. And thinking about this, what was one of the biggest challenges that you experienced and how did you overcome it?
I guess I can start. I think me and Justin, again, will probably have a pretty similar answer. But, you know, earlier this year, like we were going through some difficulties with like the structure of the team and kind of, you know, we had a lot of people that quit the team just for a bunch of different reasons, which is actually how Justin and I ended up getting in the double and getting so close. But, you know, I think those were some of the toughest experiences I've had with the sport, you know, just seeing a lot of guys that I really trusted and that were my friends, you know, leave the team for a bunch of different reasons. The dynamic kind of changed really quickly. And I think it was really difficult to see what the future of the team was going to look like and what other avenues, like what other possible avenues there would be for success. But, you know, I think for me, what kept me accountable was the guys who were still there. And, you know, guys like Justin who were not going to quit and who were going to hold down the fort. And, you know, I realized that and I was like, I still have to be here. Like, I'm not going anywhere. And so, you know, that's what kind of kept me coming back and kept me going. And I think it's really paid off. I mean, kind of coming back to like the family aspect we were talking about, I think that the people who remained with the team, I became really, really close with.
Real close.
And I can confidently say that they're going to be my friends for the rest of my life. And to me, that's what this is all meant, and that's what it's all about. You know, like, of course it's a sport, of course we're competing, of course the goal is to win, but you know, it's also important to look at the journey once in a while and see what progress you've made, and you know, just kind of looking back, I think is important. So
yeah, no, same answer for me. That early in the winter, you know, big transition with a lot of guys quitting, and there were like so many days where I just felt like, you know, it wasn't progressing, wasn't going anywhere, and and this was a real thought that I had on a frequent basis, was like, oh man, I'm not going to, you know, have any success this racing season. And the sort of the daily battle that I had with myself was like, oh man, I want to say that to someone. Like, I want to just like get that off my chest and say like, you know, we're screwed. Like, I wanted to just like kind of throw my hands up in the air so often during like that early winter period when we weren't out on the water and like we weren't able to see any progress really. But like, I don't know, I just didn't. And like, it was like going back to this idea of like agency. It was like, no, like I'm not just gonna throw my hands up in the air and be like, all right, we're screwed. I'm just gonna wash my hands of this and you know, be done with it and just you know, phone it in for these my last few months as a collegiate rower. Like, I actually took ownership for what I could contribute to myself, to, you know, my brother Rob and my other teammates, and like, that was a huge challenge that I, you know, struggled with on a daily basis. And then But man, like on the other side of it now, I'm so glad like I didn't just let that sort of complacency, laziness get the better of me. And like, man, it feels good to have conquered that sort of feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that like that was definitely like the toughest experience I've had with the team, and kind of to echo a lot of what Justin was saying, there's a lot of days where you wake up and you think like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I still here? It's very, it's very easy, I think, for a lot of people to kind of give into that. But still showing up to practice and thinking like, okay, I'm going to see where this goes. I'm going to see what else there is.
Yeah.
And obviously we're here today, and I'm personally very, very happy that, like I stuck with the team, and like I still wanted to work, and I still wanted to compete. And this is an experience that I'm going to take with me for the rest of my life. And, I'm only a junior, like I have another year. So, you never know what's going to happen next year and like whatnot. But I think, from the entire experience, I realized that like, no matter how bad something gets or how terrible something feels, it doesn't mean that like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, and you can always work towards something. And I think that I'm going to carry that throughout the rest of my life. Just the notion that like when things get tough, it's going to be okay. You just got to keep going, and you'll get through it.
So beautiful. Yes, having hope. Having hope and thinking that this is happening for a reason. Because most people say it's happening to me. Or why, like in your example.
Why me?
Why me? But
why
change
not?
that me to why not? Or it's happening for me. Maybe it's a gift from God, from universe, from that higher power, from randomness. Maybe it's a gift that it's happening for a reason, to make you stronger, to teach you something.
Yeah.
Perfect. So now thinking about the two last questions that I have. I know, Justin, you are preparing to graduate, but you still have one more year. And this question is for both of you. What's your ultimate goal as a rower?
As a rower.
I think for me, to be honest with you, I don't know if I have like an ultimate goal. I think honestly, for me, the pleasure is in the progress, and the pleasure is in the commitment. I think there's a lot of like smaller goals you can kind of look at, like, oh, I want to get this time on the water. I want to get this time on the erg. I want to deadlift this much. I want to squat this much. I think there's, you can kind of like measure your progress in that way, but it's for like an overarching kind of goal for me, at least for the sport of rowing. I don't think it exists. I think it kind of comes back down to everything we were talking about. For me, it's like, I want to commit to the guys around me, and I want to push myself because I know the guys around me are pushing themselves. And, to me, that's, I pursue that goal every day. There's no like definite like end to it. It's just like, I want to keep doing this because I trust these guys, and I want to work with them, and I want to work for them, because when I'm on a boat with guys, like, I want to trust their progress. I want to trust their fitness, and I want to know that they're giving it everything that they have. Kind of come back to the leadership example. If I can't do that myself, how can I expect that from other people? And so, just kind of wrap it up. Like, yeah, for me, there's no overarching goal. It's what I do day in, day out that I think defines my career as a rower.
Fantastic.
Yep. I'm all about the process. That was, in those dark days in early winter this year, that was definitely the type of thing that that was like my goal of overcoming that. And yeah, I mean having gotten through it now, I can't say that I ever had a specific goal, but I mean, fifth in Grands out of 25 boats, I'll take that, given all the circumstances and adversity we had to struggle through with that. But yeah, to me, it was all better than, I think even a medal is the ability and, the experience of loving and living the process.
Both of you mentioned the process, and I think this is something that a lot of people miss. Like they focus on the medals, on the trophies, on the fame, and they forgot that there is the process, that you have to love the process in order to get there. Because if you don't love what you do, you won't get there in the end. Fantastic. And what is the most valuable lesson that rowing taught you, and maybe a lesson that can also be applied to your day-to-day life? So people who listen to us, they can take that lesson, and apply it to their daily lives.
Yeah, I really think, sort of one of the key themes of what we've been talking about, the process. And, like you just said, I think you lose so much and you gain so little when you just have like a checklist of goals of what you need to accomplish, because, and I've been hugely guilty of this. It's like, okay, I've got this goal. I want to get, this GPA. I want to win this award. I want to get published. And it's like, okay, did that. Now what? And you sort of have this like empty feeling, and it sucks. And like, I still experience it, sort of, some form of like imposter syndrome. It's like, oh wait, no, this didn't really count, and this wasn't that good. So, none of these goals were that important. But like, man, like, yeah, it sounds repetitive, but it really is just learning to love the process was the most important thing that I learned as a rower, and applying it now. And I know I am going to apply it for the rest of my life, is just not focusing on the end, but focusing on, everything in between, and what you learn from the little failures, the little successes, the big ones, the small ones, like all of that has value and has meaning. And that's what, true success in the end is truly living and breathing that process.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know if I have too much else to add on that. I think that, I think me and Justin, we kind of share a similar philosophy, in that, like, when you are able to show up every day and you are able to push through things that you really don't want to do, because kind of coming back to what we were saying earlier, like the difference between motivation and discipline, there's a lot of days where you can wake up and you can be motivated, you can be excited to go to practice, or you can be excited to go study and go win the day. There's also a lot of days where you wake up and, that 4:40, 4:30 alarm goes off, you want to crawl back under the covers, which you can do. I mean, no one's stopping you, but it's the choice that you make every single day, that, like, I might not feel good today, and I might really not want to go do this today. But, when you can push through it, you're going to see results. You will see results. And I mean, like, for me right now, like, having just completed this rowing season, I'm ecstatic. And like, there was a lot of dark days. There were plenty of dark days, but you know what? It paid off, and I'm thrilled. So that's that.
Eternally grateful for all of it.
That's fantastic. Eternally grateful. Trust the process. Put first the discipline and then the motivation.
Discipline overrules motivation 7 days a week.
That's so true. And love each other, because both of you have this strong relationship. Yeah. And as you told me, to be as one in the boat means that you need to be connected in the water, outside the water, in your day-to-day activities, trusting. Another theme that I heard from both of you, trusting each other, trusting that he's putting the work, I'm putting the work.
Yeah. And going back to what Robbie was saying earlier about, wanting to like inspire and, wanting to be that guy, and like, man, like Robbie, for me, Robbie is that guy. Like, there is so much, I mean, not just respect, but like, it's like, man, I want to be like him. And and there are times, like, I mean, even today, it was like, I'm working on my thesis, and I'm coming up on the home stretch, but it's like, I really didn't want to write today, and I was feeling lazy, and it was like, you know what, I guarantee you Rob wouldn't just like pack up, go home, and like scroll on TikTok. Rob would be grinding it out and, you know, working and writing and researching and doing all that stuff. So it's like, okay, you know what, like I can do that. Like in so many ways, Rob has been my example and a real like legit inspiration. So
for me, both of you were my examples, and I appreciate it. Was an honor to interview you, to be part of the same team with you. And Robbie, I'm looking forward for the next season. Let's crash it.
Oh yeah.
All in all the time.
That's right. There we go.
Thank you so much for this interview, for this beautiful podcast.